I hadn't heard it in years. That small clicking sound. The kind that tells you something is still working, even when you're sure it shouldn't be. It came from the hallway closet, behind old coats and a box of winter shoes. A faint red light, blinking slowly. Steady, patient. I stood there longer than I needed to, hand resting on the door handle. Heart doing that quiet thing it does when memory shows up uninvited. I already knew what it was before I pulled the box out. An old cassette answering machine, the kind with real buttons, and a tape inside. Dust covered the top. The plastic had yellowed with age, but the light was still blinking. That didn't make sense. I was sure it had been unplugged years ago, packed away, forgotten. I knelt down and wiped the dust off slowly. And that's when I saw it. A small piece of tape on the side. My handwriting. Older, neater. From a time when I wrote everything down. It said, "Don't erase yet." I don't remember writing that, but I must have had a reason. The house around me was quiet. Not lonely. Just settled. Like it was holding its breath. I lifted the answering machine carefully. It felt heavier than it should have. As if it was carrying more than wires and plastic. The red light blinked again. Once. Then once more. There were messages still inside. Voices stored on a thin strip of tape. Waiting all this time. I carried it to the kitchen table and set it down gently, like you would with something fragile, something important. My finger hovered over the play button, and for the first time that evening, I wasn't sure I wanted to know. Because once you hear a voice from the past, you can't unhear it. And some nights, you don't know if you're ready to listen. I didn't press play right away. I sat down first. Pulled the chair out slowly. Like sudden movement might change my mind. The answering machine rested there on the table. Quiet now. No blinking. No sound. As if it knew it had my attention. The kitchen light felt brighter than it needed to be. So I reached up and dimmed it, letting the room soften around me. Night had settled in outside. The kind of night that doesn't rush. Just waits. I listened to the house for a moment. The refrigerator humming. A pipe ticking somewhere in the walls. All the small sounds that mean you're not alone. My finger touched the play button, then pulled back. Muscle memory is strange like that. There was a time when this machine meant everything. Missed calls. Important messages. Voices you hoped to hear. Back then, we waited for messages. We didn't expect them instantly. I turned the machine slightly, studying the buttons. Play. Stop. Rewind. The labels were worn. Edges smoothed by years of use. I wondered how long those messages had been sitting there. Days. Months. Years. Had I listened to them before? Or had I left them untouched, saving them for a day I never planned to reach? The red light blinked again. Slow, steady, unhurried. I took a breath, deep but calm, and reminded myself, these were just voices. But voices carry things. Tone, feeling, time. Once released, they don't go back to being quiet. I pressed play. There was a soft whirring sound. The cassette inside coming to life. A sound I hadn't heard in years. Then, a click. And a breath. Not mine. Someone else's. Recorded long ago. But suddenly right there with me. Hey, it's me. The voice said. Casual. Unhurried. No urgency. No worry. Just someone calling. Because that's what people used to do. I leaned back slightly, hands resting in my lap, letting the sound settle. The voice continued, talking about nothing important. Running late, traffic on the way home, the usual stuff. The kind of message you'd barely remember receiving. But hearing it now, so many years later, it felt different. The voice was younger, lighter, full of days still ahead. I closed my eyes for a moment, not to block it out, but to listen better. The machine clicked again, signaling the end of the message. A small mechanical sound. Silence followed. Thicker this time. Then the tape moved forward. Another quiet whir. Another click. I opened my eyes slowly. My shoulders had relaxed. Without me noticing. There were more messages waiting. Lined up patiently. One after another. I realized something then. None of these voices knew where I was now. How old I'd become. How much time had passed. To them, I was still the person they called. Still living in that moment. The answering machine sat there, doing its job. Faithful. Unchanged. It didn't care how long it had been. It just played what it was given. And I let it. I sat there longer than I expected. The machine quiet now. Its small red light steady. The house felt settled. As if it approved of this pause. Outside, the night had fully arrived. Not rushing. Not demanding. I realized I wasn't listening for answers. Or explanations. Or anything lost. I was listening to remember. How it felt. To be reached. Not every message was important. But each one had been sent. With intention. Someone had thought of me. Dialed a number. Waited for the beep. That alone felt meaningful. I didn't rewind again. Didn't move forward either. I simply let the machine be. The answering machine had done its job. And so had the voices. They reminded me that time doesn't erase connection. It just stores it quietly. I stood up slowly, turned off the kitchen light, left the machine exactly where it was. As I walked down the hallway, I felt lighter. Not because anything had changed, but because something had been acknowledged. Some stories don't need to be retold. They only need to be heard. And tonight, that was enough. The next message began the same way. A click. A breath. But this voice, I recognized immediately. Not because it was loud. Not because it tried to be memorable. But because it didn't try at all. Just calling to check in. The voice said, "Easy. Comfortable." The words were simple. Nothing urgent. Nothing important. But the tone, that familiar rhythm, it settled into me like an old habit. I smiled without meaning to. A small one. The kind that doesn't need an audience. I could picture where they were standing when they left that message. Near a window. Maybe holding the phone cord. Looking out at the day. They talked about the weather. About picking something up later. About nothing that mattered back then. But now, it mattered. Because voices change. Even when memories don't. The message ended with a soft laugh. Not forced. Not careful. Just there. The machine clicked again. Steady. Reliable. I noticed my breathing had slowed. My shoulders, no longer tense. Listening felt easy. Natural. Like sitting across from someone. You don't have to impress. I didn't rush to the next message. I let the quiet stay a moment. Allowed the space. Between sounds. The kitchen felt warmer somehow. The night outside deeper. Calmer. I rested my hand on the answering machine. Not pressing anything yet. Just acknowledging it. This wasn't just a box of messages. It was a small archive of ordinary days. Days that had once passed unnoticed. And for the first time since finding it, I wasn't nervous anymore. I was listening. Morning arrived without announcement. No alarms. No hurry. Light crept into the kitchen slowly. Touching the table. The chair. The old answering machine. It looked smaller in daylight. Less mysterious. More familiar. I poured myself a cup of tea. Stood by the counter. And watched the steam rise. The machine was still there. Exactly where I had left it. For a moment, I considered walking past it. Pretending last night hadn't happened. But memory doesn't work that way. Some things wait patiently. Until you are awake enough to face them. I sat down. Not heavily. Not cautiously. Just honestly. My finger hovered over the buttons. Play. Rewind. Stop. Simple words. Unexpected wait. Choosing a voice felt different than hearing one by chance. It meant deciding which moment from the past I was ready to meet again. I closed my eyes briefly, not to remember, but to steady myself. Then I pressed rewind. The tape moved softly. A faint whirring sound. The sound of time being gathered. I didn't know which message would come first. And that felt right. Some things are better received without expectation. I opened my eyes, took a slow breath, and let the machine speak. The tape clicked, then paused. That small silence felt longer than it probably was. A breath came through first. Uneven. Real. Then a voice. Slightly distorted. Worn thin by years of waiting. "Hi. I'm not sure if this is still working." The words stumbled gently, like someone entering a room they hadn't visited in a long time. I didn't move, didn't blink, didn't reach for the cup beside me. The voice continued. Quiet. Careful. I thought I'd try anyway. Just in case you ever came back. Back. The word landed softly, but stayed. There was a smile in the voice. Not a happy one. More like relief. It's nothing important. I just wanted to say the house is still standing. A faint laugh followed. Short. Unpolished. I keep meaning to clean the garage. But you know how that goes. I did know. The voice paused again, as if listening for an answer. I held my breath, as though silence itself might reply. Anyway, if you get this, I hope you're doing all right. Another pause. Longer this time. Call if you feel like it. No pressure. The tape clicked again, and the room returned to its quiet. I sat there, long after the voice was gone, because some messages don't ask for a response. They only remind you that someone once waited. I didn't rewind the tape right away. Some things feel different the second time around. I sat there, listening to the hum of the room, the refrigerator clicking on, the clock reminding me it was still morning. The voice stayed with me. Not the words exactly, but the space between them. That pause before the laugh. The way the sentence softened at the end. It sounded older, but familiar. Not polished. Not rehearsed. Like it hadn't been meant to last this long. I tried to place it. Failed. Tried again. Slower this time. The mind does that. Reaches back gently. When something feels important. My fingers rested on the edge of the machine. Warm from running. I noticed the dust along the buttons. How no one had pressed them in years. Funny thing about recorded voices. They don't age the way people do. They stay exactly as they were. Waiting. I wondered how long the tape had been there. How many seasons had passed without anyone listening. How many mornings began and ended without that voice being heard? The thought made the room feel smaller. Not uncomfortable. Just full. I leaned back in the chair. Closed my eyes. For a moment, I could almost imagine the person standing nearby, hands in their pockets, pretending not to watch me listen. I opened my eyes again. The answering machine sat quietly, innocent, unchanged. But something had shifted. Not the room. Not the day. Just the direction of my thoughts. Because once a voice reaches you, even years later, it leaves a mark. I knew the button was there. Brightened slightly from use. More worn than the others. Rewind. It always was. People don't press it by accident. I hovered my finger above it. Felt the pause stretch out. Strange how small choices can feel heavier than big ones. Listening again meant opening something. Letting it speak twice. Letting it stay meant pretending. The moment had already passed. I looked around the room. As if someone might be watching. Just the table. The chair. The light coming in slow and low. The machine waited. Patient. Like it had been built for this exact hesitation. I thought about all the messages I never kept. Voices erased without ceremony. This one had survived. That felt important. My finger pressed down. The tape began its quiet return. A soft mechanical sigh. The counter numbers rolled backward. Time unwinding in tiny steps. I listened to that sound. Steady. Unemotional. Machines don't wonder what comes next. They just do what they're told. When the tape reached the beginning, it stopped with a gentle click. I didn't press play right away. I let the silence sit. Because once you hear something twice, it becomes real in a different way. And I wasn't sure yet if I was ready for that. I pressed play. The voice came back. Exactly where it had been. Same tone. Same pause between words. But I was different now. Listening the second time. Does that to you? I noticed things I hadn't before. The breath taken before speaking. The way the sentence leaned forward. It wasn't rushed. It wasn't trying to explain. It sounded like someone who expected to be heard. There was a warmth there. Familiar. Careful. Not the kind you fake. The room seemed smaller. As if it had moved closer. I didn't sit. I stood there, holding the edge of the table. The message ended again. The tape clicked. The machine went still. No follow-up. No instruction. Just that voice. Now living in the air. I realized then. It wasn't about the message at all. It was about timing. It had waited. Years, maybe. And somehow, it had found me. At the only moment. I was quiet enough to listen. I reached out and touched the machine. Not to rewind. Not to play. Just to feel it there. Because some voices don't ask for answers. They just want to be remembered. And that night, I let it be enough. I didn't sleep much that night. Not because I was restless, but because my mind had opened a door it hadn't touched in years. The room was dark, except for the soft red dot on the answering machine. Still on. Still waiting. I lay there listening to the house breathe. The tick of the clock. The distant sound of a passing car. And somewhere between those sounds, memories began to surface. Not all at once. One at a time. Like they were being careful with me. I remembered the first time that machine came into the house. Brand new. Still smelled like plastic and cardboard. I remembered reading the instructions twice. Pressing buttons just to hear the beep. Back then, it felt like the future. A way to stay connected. Even when you weren't home. Funny thing is, we thought it would make things easier. Instead, it made leaving feel heavier. I turned on my side and stared at the ceiling. I could almost see the room as it used to be. Furniture in different places. Voices that no longer lived there. The answering machine wasn't just an object. It was a witness. It had heard laughter. Arguments. Long pauses. And goodbyes said too softly. By morning, I knew one thing. That message didn't belong to the night alone. It had roots. And if I wanted to understand it, I'd have to follow them. Slowly. Carefully. Starting with where the machine had stood. All those years ago. The sun came in quietly that morning. Not bright. Not demanding. Just enough to remind me. That time hadn't stopped. I made coffee and stood in the kitchen. Holding the warm mug with both hands. Didn't turn on the radio. Didn't open my phone. Silence felt like the right choice. The answering machine sat where it always had. On the small table near the wall. Unassuming. Almost invisible. But now, it felt heavier. Like it was holding something I hadn't earned yet. I pressed play again. Not to hear the words. I already knew them. I listened for the space between them. The hesitation. The breath. That soft pause. Before the voice said my name. That pause told me more than the message itself. It sounded like someone standing in a doorway. Unsure whether to knock or walk away. I closed my eyes. And suddenly, I wasn't in the kitchen anymore. I was in a different room. With different light. And a phone cord stretched just a little too far. I remembered that voice. How it used to sound. When it was tired. When it was trying to be brave. That voice didn't ask for anything. It never did. It only ever waited. I set the mug down. Hands steady now. The machine hummed softly. Still alive. Still holding its place. Whatever this was, it wasn't accidental. That message had been left by someone who knew I might hear it. Someone who believed I still needed to. And for the first time, I wondered if the message had been waiting for me longer than I realized. I sat down across from the machine, like it deserved my full attention. The chair creaked under my weight. Same sound it had always made. Some things don't age. They just repeat themselves. I let the message play from the beginning. Didn't interrupt it. Didn't rush ahead. I listened the way you listen when you're afraid of missing something important. The words came out careful, almost rehearsed. Not polished. Just practiced enough to hide the shaking. The voice said my name again. Not loud. Not urgent. Just familiar. The way it used to sound when it wanted me to stay on the line. I felt it in my chest. A soft tightening. Memory does that. It doesn't ask permission. It shows up fully formed. I remembered the last time I'd heard that voice in person. Standing by a doorway. One hand on the frame. Saying nothing. Waiting for me to say something first. I hadn't. I cleared my throat. The room felt smaller. Not closing in. Just closer. Like the walls were listening too. The message ended with a pause. No goodbye. No request. Just silence. That silence said more than any sentence could. I reached out and pressed stop. Not because I was done listening. Because I wasn't ready to hear it again. Some voices don't fade. They settle. They wait. And suddenly I understood. This wasn't a forgotten message. It was a held one. Left behind for the moment. I finally slowed down enough to listen. I didn't have to guess anymore. The voice had already told me. Not with words. With tone. With timing. With the way it paused before certain sentences. Like it was deciding whether to be honest or kind. It was her. No doubt left in me. I hadn't said her name out loud in years, but my mind still knew it. Funny how that works. Names can disappear. Voices don't. She always spoke like this. Soft. Measured. As if the world might crack if she spoke too loudly. I remembered how she'd leave messages, even when she knew I was home. Said it made things feel official. Said it gave her time to say what she actually meant. The machine clicked softly. Waiting. Patient. Just like she used to be. I closed my eyes. Not to escape the memory, but to let it finish forming. I saw her standing in the kitchen. Phone tucked between shoulder and ear. stirring something on the stove, talking as if I were right there. She never rushed her words, never filled the silence. She trusted it, trusted that I'd listen. Eventually, that trust hit harder than the message itself. Because I hadn't listened. Not really. Not when it mattered. The machine didn't judge me. It just held the sound. All these years. Like a small, quiet witness. And sitting there now, I realized something painful. Something honest. She hadn't been calling to be answered. She'd been calling to be remembered. I sat there longer than I meant to. The machine still humming softly, like it was waiting for permission to say more. My hand rested on the table. Still. Heavy. Not with regret exactly, but with the weight of unfinished listening. We spend so much of life telling ourselves there will be time. Time to call back. Time to explain. Time to sit down and listen properly. Time feels endless. Until it doesn't. I thought about all the messages I never replayed. All the moments I assumed would repeat themselves. Life has a quiet way of moving forward. Without asking. Without warning. The room felt smaller now. Not cramped. Just full. Full of memory. Full of things I hadn't said. I reached for the machine again. This time without hesitation. My finger hovering over the buttons. Not afraid anymore. Just careful. Because some memories don't ask for bravery. They ask for respect. I didn't press delete. Didn't rewind either. I let it be. Right where it was. Like a photograph. You don't frame. But also don't throw away. I stood up slowly. My knees reminding me of the years that had passed. And as I walked out of the room, I realized something simple. Something steady. I couldn't change when she spoke. But I could choose how I listened now. And for the first time in a long while, I felt ready to listen all the way through. The next morning felt different. Not louder. Not brighter. Just awake. Sunlight slipped through the curtains. Like it didn't want to disturb anything. I stood in the kitchen, holding a cup of coffee that had already gone cold. Listening. Not to the house, but to myself. There was a time I would have brushed this off. Called it nostalgia. Called it nothing. But that voice had settled somewhere deep. Not heavy. Just present. I went back into the room. The answering machine sat exactly where I left it. Still. Patient. I didn't press play again. Didn't need to. Some things don't need repeating. They need answering. I sat down and looked at it. Really looked at it. The dust along the edges. The faded buttons. The tiny red light. That once meant someone was trying to reach me. I wondered how many times she had called. How many times it rang out. How many times life simply got in the way. Not out of neglect. Just noise. I reached for the phone beside it. The cord curled like it remembered my hand. I lifted the receiver. Heard the quiet hum. Still working. Still connected. I didn't dial right away. Just held it. Because sometimes the hardest part isn't speaking. It's deciding who you are when you do. Outside. A bird landed on the railing. Sat there. Then flew off. And I realized I wasn't calling to fix the past. I wasn't calling to explain. I was calling to be present. Even if it was late. Even if it was brief. I placed my finger on the numbers. Took a breath. And let the line ring. Not knowing who would answer. But finally ready to listen and speak. At the same time, the ringing sounded different. When it was mine. Not sharp. Not impatient. Just a soft reminder that time still moves. One ring. Then another. I watched the machine instead of the phone. Old habit. Like it might answer for me. I almost hung up. Almost. That space between rings has a way of testing you. Asking questions you didn't plan on answering today. On the fourth ring, someone picked up. No greeting at first. Just breath. A pause long enough to feel familiar. Hello? The voice was older. Thinner. But it carried something I knew. Something that doesn't fade. The way years do. I swallowed. My name sat heavy in my chest. Waiting its turn. It's me, I said. Simple. No explanation. No rehearsed apology. Just truth. Another pause. Then a sound. That wasn't a word. Not a laugh. Not a cry. Something in between. The kind you make when memory catches you off guard. I wasn't sure you'd ever call, she said. Not accusing. Not surprised. Just honest. I closed my eyes. Because suddenly, the room felt smaller. And closer. Like the past had leaned in. To listen too. I heard your message, I said. And that was enough. We didn't fill the silence right away. Didn't need to. Some silence isn't empty. It's shared. Outside. A car passed. Somewhere. Life kept going. Inside. Time took a seat. And waited its turn. I realized then. This wasn't a conversation about what went wrong. Or who left. Or why. It was about now. About voices still reaching. About lines that never fully disconnect. I rested my elbow on the table. Let the cord stretch a little. And for the first time in a long while, I wasn't afraid of what might be said next. Because whatever came, we were both still on the line. We talked slowly. Not because we had nothing to say, but because each word deserved to land. She asked about my days. Simple questions. How I slept. What I ate. If the house still creaked at night. I answered carefully. Not hiding. Not performing. Just letting things be true. I asked about her. Where she was now. If the garden still bloomed in spring. If she still kept the radio on. Low in the evenings. She smiled through her voice. I could hear it. Yes, she said. To all of it. There were things we didn't touch. Names. Dates. Moments that still felt sharp. We circled them. Like old furniture in a narrow room. Acknowledged. But didn't bump into. Every so often. One of us would go quiet. Not awkward. Just listening. Because the sound of breathing meant someone was still there. I found myself relaxing. Leaning back. Letting the cord run loose across the table. Funny how a wire can feel like a bridge. At one point she laughed. Soft. Surprised herself with it. I forgot how steady your voice was. She said. That stayed with me. Because I hadn't thought about my voice in years. We weren't fixing anything. We weren't rewriting the story. We were reading a new page. Slowly. Out loud. Outside the window. Clouds moved. Unconcerned. Time did what time does. But inside that call, everything felt held. Not perfect. Just present. And when the silence came again, it didn't mean goodbye. It meant we were comfortable enough to let it stay. Eventually, she asked a question that had been waiting a long time. Do you still have it? I didn't need to ask what she meant. Some things only have one meaning. Yes, I said. It's still here. Another pause. Longer this time. The kind that carries weight. Without pressing down. I kept mine too, she said. And suddenly, the distance between us felt smaller than the years suggested. We talked about the machine. How it still worked. How strange that felt. How comforting. She laughed softly. I used to wonder if you ever heard me, she said. I told her the truth. That I hadn't. Not then. But I had now. And that mattered. The answering machine hummed quietly beside me. Like it knew. It had done its job. Carried a voice across time. waited patiently for the right moment to release it. I reached out and rested my hand on it. The plastic was cool, solid, real. "So what happens now?" she asked. Not demanding, not hopeful, just open. I thought about that. About age. About distance. About how much can change. And how much doesn't. "I don't know," I said. And that's okay. Because for the first time, the future didn't feel like something to be decided today. It felt like something to be allowed. One step, one call, one quiet moment at a time. Outside, the afternoon leaned toward evening. Light softened, shadows stretched, and I realized, whatever came next, the line between us was no longer silent. We didn't rush the ending, didn't wrap it in promises or careful plans. Some endings don't need to be tied. They need to be set down gently. She said she should go. Dinner was waiting. A small thing in the oven. Nothing fancy. Life, continuing as it does. I said I understood. Because I did. "I'm glad you called," she said. Not as a summary. As a truth. "So am I," I answered. And felt it fully this time. No hesitation. No second guessing. Just relief. We said goodbye. Softly. Not final. The kind of goodbye that leaves the door unlocked. The line went quiet. But not empty. I placed the receiver back where it belonged. The click sounded right. Complete. The answering machine sat still again. Red light no longer blinking. Its work finished. For now. I stayed seated for a moment. Hands resting on the table. Letting the room settle around me. Nothing dramatic had changed. The walls were the same. The light still warm. But something inside me had shifted. Just enough. I realized. Some voices don't disappear. They wait. Some connections don't break. They pause. And sometimes, all it takes is listening long enough to know when it's time to answer. I stood up, rinsed my cup, and carried the quiet with me into the rest of the evening. Not as a weight, but as a companion. That night, I didn't turn the television on, didn't reach for the radio. The house felt full enough. On its own. I moved through the rooms, with the lights low, letting shadows stay where they were, not chasing them away. They felt familiar, like old furniture you learn to walk around. In the bedroom, I sat on the edge of the bed, longer than usual, listening to the quiet settle into place. There was no replaying the call, no running the words back. Some moments don't ask to be analyzed. They ask to be accepted. I lay down slowly, the mattress sighing beneath me. A sound I hadn't noticed in years. Funny how attention shifts when the mind is calm. I stared at the ceiling, not thinking about tomorrow, not thinking about yesterday, just resting in the space between. Somewhere in the house, the answering machine rested, unplugged now, not out of avoidance, out of gratitude. Its message delivered, its purpose fulfilled. I felt something loosen. Not sadness, not joy, just release. Sleep didn't come right away, and that was all right. I wasn't waiting for it. I was letting it arrive on its own time, like everything else, worth keeping. Morning arrived quietly. No alarm, no rush, just light, finding its way in. I woke feeling rested, not younger, not changed, just steadier, like something inside me had found its balance again. I made breakfast slowly. Toast, coffee, the simple kind of morning that doesn't ask questions. At the table, I noticed how still everything felt. Not empty, complete, as if the house had exhaled and was content to stay that way. I thought about the call, not with urgency, but with warmth, like remembering a song you hadn't heard in years. It didn't need repeating. It didn't need explaining. It had already done its work. Later, I carried the answering machine to the hallway closet, placed it on the shelf. Not hidden, not forgotten, just stored, where important things go, when they no longer need to be held every day. I closed the door gently. The click sounded familiar, comforting. I stepped outside. The air was cool, fresh. Life moved at its own pace. Cars passed. Birds called. Someone laughed down the street. And I realized nothing extraordinary had happened. Yet everything felt different. Because sometimes closure doesn't come with noise. It comes with quiet understanding. That afternoon, I found myself smiling at small things. A folded newspaper, the sound of the kettle, the way the light shifted across the floor. Nothing important. And yet, everything felt noticeable. I realized how long I'd been moving through days without really being in them, always carrying something unfinished, something unsaid, like a weight you forget you're holding until you set it down. I sat by the window for a while, watched the street. Same houses, different lives, everyone carrying their own stories. Some heavy, some light, some waiting for a voice brave enough to answer. I thought about her again. Not with longing, but with kindness. The kind that doesn't ask for anything in return. We hadn't promised to call again. Hadn't closed the door either. It felt right. Balanced. Like two people finally agreeing to let the past be what it was, and the present be enough. I stood up, stretched slowly, the body remembering itself, the day moving forward, without resistance. And I felt something settle deeper. Not relief, not resolution, but peace. The quiet kind that doesn't need to be named. As evening came, I dimmed the lights again. Let the house return to its softer shape. Dinner was simple. Nothing that needed attention. Just enough. That felt right. I moved through familiar routines. Washing a plate. Drying my hands. Straightening a chair. That didn't really need it. Small motions. Steady. Comforting. The kind you trust. Later, I sat in my usual chair. Didn't reach for a book. Didn't turn on a screen. Just rested. Listening to the quiet. Do what it does best. Hold things together. I thought about how voices travel. How they wait. How they show up. When we're finally ready to hear them. Not when we're young. Not when we're busy. But when life slows enough to make room. Somewhere in the house, the answering machine slept on its shelf. No light. No sound. Just a memory now. And that was enough. Because some objects aren't meant to stay active forever. They carry something forward. Then rest. I stood, turned off the last light, and walked toward bed. The hallway familiar beneath my feet. Nothing unresolved followed me. No words chasing after me. Just the quiet assurance that listening counts. Even when it comes late. Even when it comes softly. As I lay down, the day folded in on itself. Complete. And sleep arrived. Without needing to be asked.